But just as powerful as the personal connections has been her fierce advocacy for the people of Palawan and protections for the beautiful land and sea they rely on to thrive. Jessa, if you've made it back onto the internet, I know you're having troubles over there. You're an inspiration to me and so many others, and we want to welcome you back to Earth Core.
There we go, the internet worked. Thank you, Mike, for that amazing introduction. It's so great to see you again. And I'm happy that so many Earth Core supporters and alumni and host families are joining us tonight. I remember the first time that I met the O'Brien family. I got to their house at around 3 in the afternoon, and Julie said, "We're going boating on a lake. Do you want to hang out with us?" I was shy, but I wanted to get to know them right away. They brought friends, including a Filipino friend, and we spent the afternoon singing songs to a ukulele and chatting, and there was a lot of food. I also showed up with some fermented fish sauce, and I had to ask Julie, "Is it okay if I store this here?" She had just started a company making fermented foods, so it was pretty much love at first sight. Later, when she was writing a cookbook, we tried a lot of recipes together, including sauerkraut frosted cupcakes. I always tell people, living with the O'Briens was just magic. The kitchen was never empty, and the house was unlocked most of the time, with people going in and out all day. Last year, I got married here in Palawan, and the entire O'Brien family came. Mike and Julie are now godparents in this new chapter of my life. Earth Core not only gave me the O'Brien family, but it also brought me into a huge global community that's all about connection and support, and to put it simply, love. I joined 11 amazing young environmentalists from different parts of the world and other young people from the United States. We came from completely different cultures, but we were all excited to find out how we intersected in our goal of protecting the planet. I grew up on the island of Palawan in the Philippines. Palawan has incredible biodiversity. It has coral reefs, seagrass, mangrove swamps, limestone cliffs, and tropical rainforest. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Philippines was 70% pristine forests, but now it's only 3%. Most of that surviving forest is on Palawan. Palawan is considered as the last ecological frontier in the Philippines. Travel and Leisure magazine calls it the best island in the world. As you can imagine, that kind of attention has led to an explosion of tourism and development, which adds to the ecological stress caused by mining and poaching and deforestation to expand agricultural land. Because of climate change, the river valleys on Palawan are now experiencing flooding more often and affecting the food supply, especially of those indigenous communities. The Philippines as a whole, which includes more than 7,000 islands, is seeing a lot of devastation due to climate change. Entire islands have been wiped out by typhoons and rising sea levels. I started doing conservation work on Palawan when I was 14 with different youth conservation programs. When I was 19, after I got a degree in marine biology, I then came to Seattle to join Earth Core. I ended up staying for 2 years. In my second year, I worked as one of Earth Core's volunteer specialists. We managed huge volunteer events. Sometimes we had as many as 500 people from companies like Starbucks and Boeing. That experience taught me that there's a way for every person to make an impact. One of the most meaningful days for me was when we had a volunteer event for kids with special needs. One child was in a wheelchair, and I started a day with so much anxiety about how to make it a good experience for him. What could he do while the other kids were pulling invasive plants and spreading mulch? I handed him a bucket and asked him if he wanted to fill it up by kicking mulch into it. He got so excited. He filled bucket after bucket, and as the day went on, he seemed to work faster and faster, and his kicking got stronger and stronger. Earth Core is all about lifting up community members and showing them that they each have a role to play in protecting the environment. I learned so much that year about how to talk to people and how to empower them. It gave me the confidence to imagine taking a leadership role in environmental conservation when I got back to the Philippines. 2 weeks after I returned to Palawan, I was back in the field doing a 5-day trek to the top of my city's highest mountain, which is known as Cleopatra's Needle. The indigenous people call it Puyos ni Bayi. The mountain is about an hour away from the city of Puerto Princesa, where I grew up, but I had never been there. Its watershed supplies about thirds of the drinking water for the city. Cleopatra's Needle is also the ancestral home of the Batak people, a hunter-gatherer tribe that has dwindled to only 200 members. The area was unprotected, which meant that not only was the Batak's people way of life was endangered, but numerous of species of plants, birds, mammals, amphibians, and other animals were at risk of extinction. This included the Palawan pangolin, which is the most heavily poached animal on the planet, mostly for traditional Chinese medicine. About 1 million of these pangolins have been killed over the past decade alone. We were guided on this trek by members of the Batak tribe. To get to the top, we had to bushwhack through dense vegetation for 6 to 8 hours a day and make 91 river crossings. At night, we slept in hammocks or under shelters made from empty rice sacks. We conducted a scientific expedition as part of getting Cleopatra's Needle designated by the government as a critical habitat. In 2016, my friend KM Reyes and I, together with another Palawan local, Solomon Calago, co-founded our own nonprofit organization called Center for Sustainability PH to ensure the sustainability of our island by getting legal protection for Cleopatra's Needle and other natural areas. We are a women-led youth conservation NGO, and we do our work through community organizing, scientific research, and political lobbying. We spent about 2 years doing community organizing in 3 indigenous communities and 7 neighborhoods. We call them barangays. That meant sitting down with families in their homes, drinking cup after cup of coffee, getting to know their children and their pets, and slowly building a relationship. We tried to find out what mattered to them and really listen to what they had to say. And we explained to them how their lands are being ravaged by illegal encroachment, land conversion, and wildlife and timber poaching. They learned to trust us, and they were crucial to collecting baseline data, finding our way through the forests, and identifying plant and animal species. We also brought in Filipino and international scientists to conduct a biodiversity survey. That led to the rediscovery of two amphibian species that had been lost to science for more than 40 years. One of them is the Palawan toadlet, which we found at the peak of Cleopatra's Needle. We brought all of our scientific data and analysis to our elected leaders and lobbied hard for 2 years. In 2017, Cleopatra's Needle critical habitat became the largest protected reserve in the Philippines. It has an area twice the size of Seattle. We take the same approach I learned at EarthCore, that the work has to be community approved. And not just community approved, but actually community driven. It's easy to barge into a community and say, this is what we think you should do. But if the community isn't involved in planning a project and no one asks them what they care about and what they need, it can never succeed. The time we spent with indigenous communities in Cleopatra's Needle led us to our next big project, the Saving the Endangered Almasiga Tree. These trees can grow higher than 200 feet, and the indigenous people get most of their income from harvesting the resin, which can be used to produce paint and varnish and other products. The Almasiga tree is at the center of their cultural traditions, and they consider it to be the home of the forest spirits. But so many non-indigenous people have come in and over-harvested the resin that the trees have become degraded and are dying out. Together with indigenous people, we found a way to propagate this species for reforestation using its cones, a breakthrough for this species in our country. So far, we've reforested over 15,000 seedlings, and we're planning to replicate this project in the southern part of Palawan. One thing we've learned doing community work on Palawan, especially with the indigenous communities, is that leaders are all men. But if you talk to the women, they have a lot to say, and they're often the first to bear the brunt of the environmental problems. At community meetings, the women usually just prepare coffee or tend to the children. But we explicitly say that the women have to be in the circle. We try to send the message that our organization is led by women, which is quite rare in the Philippines. When the indigenous women see that, some of them feel encouraged to speak up. We've started interviewing them for a series of case studies about what roles they think they can play in conservation work. We want to involve them in citizen science, and we want to encourage them to become community forest wardens, which will be another first in the Philippines. We also try to recruit young women as volunteers and give them all the support that they need. Even though I got involved in EarthCore in conservation at a young age and spent a lot of time outdoors, EarthCore was the first time I wasn't treated as more fragile than men. It was the first time I got to use power tools. EarthCore is where I learned how to be a leader in the outdoors and where I developed a level of stamina and grit I never imagined. Conserving land is not an easy job. Reforestation work is not an easy job. It's a marathon. And as I learned at EarthCore, it's character building. I found that when you achieve some success, it's addicting. You just want to go out there and get more areas protected. People sometimes ask me how I stay optimistic when you see so much destruction of our natural environment. And I tell them, there's no choice but to be optimistic. The reason all of us is in the Earth Core community is because in our own ways, we believe there's so much to look forward to. We support each other and really hope for each other's success. Everyone who comes through Earth Core finds their own way to make an impact, just like everyone who volunteers and every partner organization and company and every host family who welcomes an international core member into their home. Tonight, all of you have a critical role to play too, as supporters of Earth Core and the next generation of environmental leaders. We truly have no choice but to be optimistic. We need to do the work and we need to stick together as a community that's invested in protecting the places we love and the future of our planet. Thank you, maraming salamat, for giving generously to Earth Core tonight. We cannot do this work without you.
Thank you, Jessa. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to know you and to see your work and to be able to share the screen with you tonight. I'm so proud of you and the work you're doing. Your optimism and dedication to a better tomorrow inspire me each day, and you're an inspiration to all of us. Also, leaders like Ebony, Emily, Hannah, and Savannah, Anya, Jemson, Juan, and Rinson, you are the hope for the future. You are creating the kinder, healthier, more just world that we so desperately need. Tonight, I invite all of you at home to join me in sharing this hope. I invite you to join me in investing in these change makers and visionaries by supporting Earth Core. This is your part in shaping the future. Remember, when you make a gift to Earth Core tonight, it will be matched thanks to the Hooray Foundation and an anonymous donor. For every dollar you give to Earth Core, the return is exponential. Your gift will be doubled. You will help restore the places we love around the Puget Sound region, and you'll help grow the network of environmental leaders who are our best hope for the future. Simply put, your impact will be amplified in communities around the world, in Russia, Haiti, Nepal, and the Philippines, and right here in Washington State. If you're able, I encourage you to go online and make a gift tonight. You can sponsor tools like the Pulaski or native plants like we saw from Mike and Sarah in the video, or you can make a gift that is meaningful and significant to you. No gift is too small. All gifts make an impact. I thank you all for giving what you can. And I thank you for joining us on this quick trip around the world tonight. We are separated by screens, we are building connections, we are celebrating community, and we are in this work together. Thank you for opening your hearts, homes, and screens to Earth Core tonight. It has been a pleasure to be with you all. Good night.